I discovered Reiki for myself before I knew anything about Reiki, very accidentally. I had an ankle wound that just would not heal. And every few months, once it looked like it was healing, I'd do something to that ankle, and all over again, I'd be in this pain for months. And one day, I twisted that ankle, and it hurt so bad, I dropped to the ground. I grabbed my ankle. I I wasn't trying to do this. This is what I did, right? Reflexively, this is what I did. I dropped to the ground. I grabbed my ankle. I cradled it with both my hands like I was cradling a baby. And I said, "Oh, I am so sorry I hurt you. I'm so sorry I hurt you." And then I noticed weeks later that I hadn't had any ankle pain. And I went, is it possible that me dropping to the ground, hugging my ankle, and saying I'm sorry had power in it? And that just sort of like unwound my mind in places. Because if that was possible, then how does our self-love impact the rest of our lives? And inner fitness is very tied to that moment, because that moment was long before inner fitness as the practice that it is today. Attention is self-love, which is what we foster here at the Inner Fitness Project. I had to drop to my knees to discover that there was a connection between my loving myself, or between my giving my ankle this very specific kind of attention, and the rest of my life. I did not know it. I discovered it by accident. And then I started taking what I learned in that moment and playing it out, applying it intentionally, having my attention be more intentional towards myself. That's why paying attention to self is so critical, because when we are committed to our relationship with ourselves, then we are inviting ourselves, and we're listening to ourselves, and we are paying attention, and we'll fight for ourselves. At least get curious, because once we know and understand that the surviving self has the predominant place in our lives and our thinking, there are many times, I'm sure we've all experienced times, where we haven't trusted or felt like we could trust and believe our own knowing. Being able to trust and believe our own knowing requires that we know the surviving self, that we understand the habit that happens inside of us, so that we can get curious about the moment and begin to have like an understanding of our interior landscape, to be able to challenge any doubt, challenge it through the lens of, now, is this my surviving self talking? Is this doubt that's in me just more of my surviving self doing what I have given it reign to do for so many years? But the surviving self is always paying attention. And the surviving self is always paying attention and collecting information to support its idea that something is wrong and against you. So if you aren't aware of what you are doing consciously, then the surviving self is left to live in the background of our being and collect information that is slanted towards its agenda. And I don't mean that in a negative way, just slanted towards its need for you to continue as you are. And then it'll collect that information, and it doesn't really matter whether the information was slanted in its direction or not. It will grab it and it will let you know that this is what that meant. Ah, this is what that meant. And you saw that one? And this is what that meant. The surviving self isn't even thinking about you. The surviving self is thinking about itself. It's thinking about its idea of, because it is us, but it's thinking about its idea of itself, its need to survive, period. And I guess there is that person attached to the idea. That person called you attached to the idea. But the surviving self is 100, 1,000, 1,000,000% focused on surviving the moment and the day. And when we are in survival mode, just remember this. When you are running for your life, everything shuts down. Everything shuts down. So that your vision becomes, it won't say your vision becomes clearer, but all you see is the exit for the danger, the pain, the whatever. You don't see, even when I say exit, I'm not even talking about the solution, the fix. No, we're just talking about running, mad running, unconscious, wild running. And when that is present, you cannot access your thinking mind. And so it is in that way that the surviving self is not thinking about you. The surviving self is in terror. Everything gets collected, y'all. There is this statement that I believe it's a scientific statement, and I've always assumed it was, that if we had the instrument that could do it, every sound that has ever been made still exists. So I just think that that's a great analogy for this instrument called our body. There's a wonderful book called The Body Keeps the Score, and it speaks to the body remembering our life experiences. And so if we just assume that the impact to our nervous system is always being registered, it lets us have a window into at least being curious about these feelings that we have. So to just begin to be in a relationship with yourself that goes, I wonder why or what's going on that I always have this feeling in my stomach first thing in the morning. You don't want to turn anything into something, because the surviving self is always ready to do that. But when you get curious, when you invite that foundational curiosity onto your playing field, Now it's leaving room for aha moments. For those of you who have taken Self 365, it leaves room for practice number one and practice number two. Practice number one, turn my life over to a force greater than me that loves me and responds to my heart. If we are here for the purpose of healing, for the purpose of expansion and growth, then when we experience moments, we get to say, okay, and how do I move beyond this? Because that's what I want to do. How do I heal? That's what I want to do. And then your life responds to that deep desire. I say all the time, you'll open a book, you'll get a phone call, you'll turn the TV on and have an aha moment. And if you, for some reason, aren't, you are, you just got to pay attention. And when you're paying attention, just ask for that help. Ask for help to see. Literally ask out loud. So to the degree that you want and are reaching, you are engaged in practice number one. Do so intentionally. And where you're stuck, where you don't have answers, intentionally engage practice number two. And there's no linear line. You just have to engage, and one day you drop to your knees and you do something that you've never done, you've never thought of doing, and there's an answer.
If you are gaining value from this channel, then I ask that you subscribe. And even more important, if you are gaining value, share this channel with someone else. And let's be a part of changing the world in terms of how we deal with, see ourselves, and treat ourselves. Thank you for being part of the journey.